She went in for a routine checkup, expecting nothing more than another quiet afternoon. Yet the moment the gynecologist placed a hand on her wrist, something in the doctor's expression shifted. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was recognition. The that made the air tighten around the room. As the black woman sat there unaware, the doctor excused herself with a tone that sent a cold throb down her spine. Something was off. Something her husband had kept hidden for years. Something that was now rising to the surface with dangerous clarity. She had built her life around trust privilege and a love she believed was unbreakable. Still, cracks were beginning to show. Cracks she didn't know existed until this moment. The glances, the awkward silence, the forced smiles from staff drifting in and out of her room, she could feel it all closing in. What happens when the truth you never asked for finally knocks on your door? Watch until the end. Wait a second. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories. Just like this one, Amira Langford had always lived between two worlds, raised in a modest neighborhood by a mother who believed fiercely in dignity and hard. In work, she grew up understanding both the weight of prejudice and the hunger for opportunity. Her brilliance carried her through scholarships and internships, and eventually into the corporate world, where she met Alexander Langford, a man whose name carried more power than she ever imagined. He was the golden son of a billionaire real estate dynasty, a man whose charm seemed effortless and whose influence was undeniable. To the world, they were the perfect interracial couple, ambitious, respected, and admired. But perfection had its shadows. Amira quickly learned that wealth came with secrets, doors always slightly ajar, conversations that stopped when she entered relatives who smiled through their teeth. Still, Alexander loved her, at least. That's what she believed. Their home was a sprawling glass mansion overlooking the ocean. Every morning he left before sunrise, every evening returning with the exhaustion of a man carrying a world too heavy to explain. She trusted him because trust was how she endured the turbulence of rising into a life so far removed from her roots. Yet small things began to shift. His unexplained phone calls, the staff's uncomfortable glances, his sudden insistence that she avoid specific doctors, certain clinics and certain people altogether. She didn't think much of it until her gynecologist felt something was wrong, until the silence in that examination room grew too heavy, and until everything she thought she knew began to unravel. The moment Dr. Helena excused herself, the sterile room felt colder, almost hostile. Amira sat upright, her heart drumming against her ribs. She had been to dozens of appointments in her life, but never had she seen a doctor leave the room with such urgency. No explanation. No reassurance, nurses whispered just outside. She heard fragments, her husband's name spoken softly. The word restricted, another murmuring, "She doesn't know." Know what? When the doctor returned, her posture was different. Careful, guarded. She scanned Amira with a mixture of sympathy and professional caution. If there was one thing Amira understood, it was when someone was withholding information. She had felt that same subtle tension at business galas, where she was the only black woman in the room. The same quiet dismissal in luxury stores where employees assumed she didn't belong. But this was different. This was personal. The doctor gently asked if Alexander ever discussed medical restrictions, family genetics, or private health agreements. Amira shook her head. The doctor pressed further questions, hinting at something deeper, something rooted beyond medicine, something that sounded more like ownership than care. Amira's chest tightened. Why would her gynecologist know anything about her husband's private affairs? Why would her medical records suddenly be flagged with notes she had never seen before? Notes marked, handled by Langford family security. Then came the moment that shifted everything. Dr. Helena stepped closer, lowering, her voice as if the walls themselves were listening. She told Amira that some of her tests weren't matching previous data on record. Data that appeared to have been altered, tests relating to fertility hormone patterns and long-term reproductive health showed inconsistencies too precise to be accidents. Someone had tampered with her medical files. Amira felt her breath catch. Memories rushed back. Her husband's constant worry about her seeing outside specialists, his insistence on handling all her appointments through family connections. The pills he told her to take were just for balance. The quiet frustration he showed whenever she mentioned wanting children. He wasn't preventing pregnancy by chance, he was preventing it by design. The truth seeped through her like ice water. The billionaire family she married into wasn't worried about her health. They were worried about bloodlines, image legacy. And she, despite her intelligence, her success, her dignity had become someone's controlled, variable. Someone's experiment in public perfection and private manipulation. Dr. Helena, with a trembling voice, explained the real warning. The Langford family had a long history of using medical influence to maintain generational purity for decades. Quietly rejecting heirs who didn't fit their preferred lineage, Amira was never meant to become a mother in that family. She was meant to be a symbol, an ornament of diversity to soften a legacy built on discrimination. Her stomach twisted, her vision blurred. Everything she thought she knew about her marriage was crumbling. The injustice wasn't just racial. It was calculated, curated, and weaponized. And she had walked right into it. Amira left the clinic trembling, her thoughts racing as she stepped into the chauffeured car her husband sent each day. But today felt different. The driver avoided her eyes. The tinted glass felt suffocating. Every second felt like surveillance. When she arrived home, she found Alexander waiting for her. Not with concern. Not with love, but with a cold, rehearsed calm, as if he already knew what she had learned. He stood there, polished and perfect, watching her with the same eyes that once held tenderness, now emptied of warmth. She noticed the security team positioned around the room, not to protect her, but to contain her. He didn't need words. His silence said everything he knew. He planned it. He expected her to obey. Amira felt the crushing realization that she wasn't a partner in their marriage. She was an asset. A controlled narrative. A box checked on a billionaire family's public relations script. And when she refused to sit, refused to break, refused to let fear swallow her, the room stiffened. Would they let her walk away? Or would this be the moment she learned precisely how far the Langfords would go to protect their empire? Amira didn't run. She calculated, she planned, and she documented everything. Every altered test result, every coded file, every piece of evidence the Langfords never imagined she would uncover. The world loved the Langfords, billionaire philanthropists, industry leaders, media darlings. But beneath the shine lay a web of manipulation, coercion, and generations of racial gatekeeping hidden behind polished glass walls. Amira didn't expose them out of revenge. She exposed them because the truth deserved to breathe. Within weeks, major news outlets picked up the story. Investigations exploded. Medical records once hidden under forged signatures were subpoenaed. Employees stepped forward. Former partners spoke out. The Langford empire shook under the weight of its own darkness. Alexander's carefully crafted image shattered, and Amira, who once stood quietly beside him, became the voice of a truth millions recognized. All too well. Discrimination doesn't disappear with wealth, it evolves with it. She rebuilt her life with the strength she inherited from her mother, rooted not in privilege but in resilience. Her story sparked conversations about medical racism, coercion, and the invisible chains individuals still face behind closed doors. Some asked why she stayed so long, others asked how she found the courage to leave. But the real question lingered in the minds of those who watched. How many more stories like hers remain buried behind power, money, and silence? And from which country and city are you watching? Take care.